All right, give me the thumbs up. All right, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our third session in our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion webinar series. My name is Everell Eaton, and I'm the Membership Director here at the Greater Wilkes-Barre Chamber. Just a few housekeeping items before I pass it over to our sponsor, PNC Bank, for a brief video and a few comments. All attendees will be in listen-only mode. To be respectful of everyone's time, we have a lot of time at the end for questions and answers. Feel free to ask a question at any time during the presentation by submitting them in the Q&A section or the chat box. This event is being live streamed on Facebook. For anyone watching on Facebook, please enter your question in the comments section. A recording of this session will be available on our Facebook and YouTube pages by early next week. Last, if anyone is interested in joining our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council or staying up to date on our efforts, please visit the Get Involved tab on our website. All right, let's get started with a brief video from PNC Bank, and then we'll hear from John Rossetti at PNC, who will introduce our speaker for today.
Make today a new you had it in you day. Make today a we need a bigger trophy case day. Make today a learning the basics day. Make today a finally going in on season tickets day. No matter the day, PNC has the financial tools and technology to help. PNC Bank, make today the day.
So good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of everyone at PNC, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. At PNC, we embrace and promote diversity and inclusion as a core element of our values and our culture. We're so excited to be a partner with the Wilkes-Barre Chamber to strengthen our commitment to continuing the conversation about great equal opportunities with these virtual webinars. As recent events have illustrated, we all have a role and responsibility to create more opportunities for positive understanding and change. So thank you all for making the time to prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we're so excited today to be joined by Arthur Breese. Arthur currently serves as the Director of Diversity and Inclusion and Director at Title IX with Geisinger Health Care Systems. Arthur is trained in diversity through the Anti-Defamation League and is certified as a train-the-trainer for unconscious bias with CookRoss Consulting. Currently, Arthur is the co-chair of the Luzerne County Diversity Commission. He's the president of the Northeastern Pennsylvania Diversity Education Consortium and a member of the local chapter of the N.A.A.C.P. Recently, Arthur was awarded by the 2020 Pennsylvania LGBTQ Leadership Award. So it's my pleasure to welcome Arthur Breese. Arthur?
So good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me? If you just wave. Okay, great. Thank you so much, John, for that introduction. So excited that I get the opportunity to facilitate this session today. Generally, when I facilitate the implicit bias, unconscious bias session, it's usually face-to-face. But unfortunately, we are now facing still the pandemic, so I've been doing many sessions virtually, and I'm really starting to get much better at this. So I am going to attempt to do this 2.5-hour session within 50 minutes, just to give you the basics. We will leave about 10 minutes for questions, comments, responses. And if you do have a question, you can put it in the chat box and Ben will let me know, stop me, and then I will respond to it. So let's get started. So there are a lot of reasons why organizations are doing diversity, equity, and inclusion work. A lot of it is around the impact of the bottom line. So McKinsey has done several studies, Catalyst has done studies where they found that ethnically diverse companies were 35% more likely to outperform those in the bottom quartile for race and gender. That only happens if, in fact, you have an inclusive environment. We also know that diversity drives the work styles and the ethics. It makes your recruiting much easier. And if it's not being prioritized, it should be. So it also makes you much more innovative. And of course, innovation drives business. It'll attract clients and partners, especially because of the big social media, the whole tech piece, and you retain and cultivate the best talent amidst a changing population and often unpredictable business conditions. In fact, I think it's even more of a imperative today that we're working more non-face-to-face to ensure that you are addressing diversity, equity, and inclusion in your organizations. Okay, so something's going on here. Well, maybe. Trying to get to the, okay, great. So I want you to watch this first video and just really pay attention to the details. And then I will facilitate a little conversation around it. So I love this video because it is a great video that shows how our fast and our slow brain work. So as you noticed, the theater goers were getting their tickets. They walked into a crowded theater room and they had to choose a seat. And so there is a little piece in your brain called the amygdala. And often our amygdala, it's walnut shaped, it gets hijacked, and then it moves to your hippocampus. The hippocampus is like your Rolodex or your filing cabinet where you have had experiences, previous experiences with all kinds of different things, and it gives you those quick things that you don't have to rethink about. And so, you know, most of the people that were walking in had some kind of interaction with this group in the past, and they were deciding, is it safe, is it not safe, where should I sit, should we go? And all while that's occurring, that's happening in your fast brain. There's great research and evidence that states if you learn the steps to mitigate your biases, you could slow down your thinking and really think about your own thinking and then mitigate those different steps to move on. So this was a great video, quick one where happened on ABC, same experience, but I think it's great how you will hear the media person talking about this incident that occurred.
Sami has this story. Steve, good morning.
Good morning to you. With the parents of these children had to get a call from police scaring them silly that something was wrong. They had to verify that this babysitter was supposed to be with their children.
I am being harassed and followed.
For so many reasons, the video Corey Lewis recorded on his cell phone has been seen around the world.
I got 2 kids I'm babysitting.
You see him being pulled over last Sunday by Cobb County Police, answering a call in the Atlanta suburbs, and the officer asked the 2 children he was babysitting to step out of the car.
We ate at Subway, at Walmart. Went and got some gas. She pulled up talking about are the kids okay? Why wouldn't they be okay?
Someone had called 911 reporting a suspicious black man with the children.
See this black gentleman with these two little white kids, so I just had a funny feeling.
This morning, we're hearing that call to 911 from the unidentified woman who spotted them at a Walmart.
I rode around again and I said, let me see the little girl. He goes, no. And I said, well, let me just see the little girl and just see if she knows you.
What she didn't know is that Lewis runs a youth mentorship program with kids of every race and has babysat these kids for the past 2 years.
He just got gas and now he's pulling away. Should I follow him?
No, I recommend not following him.
And if I'm wrong, that's great. I'm thrilled. But if I'm not, then these kids are okay.
The children's parents are not happy.
They understood what was happening, and they both said that they were scared. They said that they were scared that he was going to be arrested. They said they were scared they were going to say the wrong thing and that he would be arrested.
The parents of the children were greatly upset by this and say they wish their children didn't have to learn this lesson. For all this caller knew, the babysitter could just as easily have been the children's father. There are families who look like this all across America, including mine. None of this would have happened if the babysitter and the kids were of the same race. Guys?
And Steve, we understand that you had an experience similar to this one. What can you tell us?
Well, I have a white daughter, and she was very aware of the looks that we would get. People would look at us sideways. I remember once we were in a farmer's market, and her response to it was to grab my arm, rub it, get close to me to really give people something to talk about, or really tell them that she belonged with me, that she was part of my family. I think there are so many families that look like this across America, and this is something that you wish weren't happening in 2018.
Absolutely. Steve, thank you for sharing that, too. It really is something that has a lot of people talking.
Yeah, this is our America.
Absolutely.
So science says the first things that we notice about a person are skin color, gender, and age. And that happens within probably about 10 milliseconds. So I know often we say we don't see color, or I didn't notice that person's color. That is not true. Science says that happens immediately. The second thing is that there are 4 key conditions when our biases are activated. And one is when we're under stress. And then the second is when we're under or we're multitasking. So think throughout the day how many times that happens. So it's easy to point fingers and say, oh my gosh, that was terrible what this babysitter did. But again, when your fast brain is working very quickly, you don't have time to go through the million of pieces of information. So we store it in our hippocampus and we don't even think, we just leap quickly to a decision. And so here is a icebreaker, and I think I'm going to ask Ben to help me. I'm going to ask you to at least maybe put in your chat, if that's possible, to let me know some of these, if you have the answers to these questions. So the first one is what do all CEOs from Fortune 500 companies have in common? So I'll give you 1 second, 2 seconds to come up with that. Anything coming through, Ben?
Someone put white men.
Yep, no, that's not it, but certainly I could see why.
Another person put they're all white men.
Nope.
Height over 6 feet. They're older than 50.
That's right. So it is height over 6 feet. And so interesting enough, the bias is that we often link height with competence, and all of the CEOs are 6 foot and higher, except the one a few years ago was under 5'2", 5'3". So think about it, something that you have very little control over, and we often connect height with competence, and that has factored in to all of the CEOs from the Fortune 500 companies. We know that only about 15 to 16% of the men in the U.S. are 6 foot and higher. So that clearly says that that's a bias. What is the most intelligent accent in the world? So if you just...
So we get in British so far.
Yep, that's right. It is the British. That's what we believe, but that is not really the case. And the studies and the research says that if you speak or have the same accent as the person that's treating you, you're more likely to trust them. So I often bring this up when I do diversity training sessions at Geisinger. And if someone is not from here or a physician isn't from here, it really impacts the Press Ganey or the patient satisfaction scores. Do we make decisions on hand dominance?
Nothing yet.
Well, the answer is definitely yes.
Yeah.
We do make decisions on hand dominance. Very interesting. When you have a chance, if you could look up the Barg study, it's fascinating, the research around that. And do you believe it makes a difference of how you are dressed?
We're getting definitely.
Yes. They recently did a great study of people who were traveling in airports, and if you were dressed, more dressed a certain way, and I'm going to put quotes around it, professional, you were less likely to get stopped and then searched, and it was much easier for you to get through the gates to get to your plane. So here is our next video. And what I want you to do is just look at this video, and then what you're going to do is count the times the ball is passed from the white shirt team to the black shirt team. So that's all you have to do is just count the number of passes. I will stop the video and then come back and ask you how many times to see if you've gotten the number of passes right.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go!
The answer is
So anyone have the number? How many times did they pass? It's showing on the screen, 13. So my question to you is did you see anything else as the members of the team in the white shirt were passing? Did anyone notice anything? And if you could put it in the chat box, and maybe you could look at it for me, Ben, again. I appreciate all your help today.
Yeah, you got it. Nothing yet. Anybody notice anything else?
Did you notice, Ben?
I can't answer because I've seen this video before.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's okay.
Not so someone put not sure, but I think black shirts pass to white shirts, but white shirts only pass to white. Someone put the woman never touched the ball.
Nope, it's something else. So what happened was there was a bear that walked through as they were passing the ball to each other. And so I will play it again for you so you will see it.
But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Go!
So did everyone see the moonwalking bear?
Just starting to get comments of I did not see that and how did I miss that?
Well, this is what's called inattentional blindness, and thank you for that. And what typically happens is that you're given a task, and I tell you the exercise or what I need you to do, and you are so ultra focused on the task at hand that you miss all the other stuff that's happening outside that task. In fact, there's even a better one around the presentation, where we asked a group of radiologists to look at a lung exam, and they were supposed to notice to see if they could see the cancer nodules, and there was a bear inside of the lung. Nobody, the cancer radiologist did not notice that. And you know, you say, well, there's never going to be a bear in a part of the lung or the half slice of a lung. That's true, but wouldn't you want them to also notice other things that may be out of scope that shouldn't be in your lung? So again, this is inattentional blindness. One of the best ways to mitigate your bias is to look and start to practice what I often call mindfulness, and take brain or mind exercises. And so here are the health imperatives for diversity. I included them because I am in the healthcare field, but there are lots of reasons why, you know, educational imperatives for diversity and inclusion, and also the whole equity side. So we know the demographics are changing very quickly. By the year 2042, the minority will be the majority. It reduces healthcare disparities. That's something every healthcare institution should really be working on. You are, I'm sure you're aware of how COVID has impacted the Black and Brown populations much more. We're doing it also for accreditation reasons. So accrediting bodies expect us to give the best patient culturally competent care. It improves the patient experience, impacts quality and safety, and you could see how it impacts safety just with the whole inattentional blindness, and then also outcomes. And so we often form these schemas, and I talk about it through our lenses, and we all have cultural lenses that give us our 2020 vision, and those schemas then form patterns for us. And so here are the 5 elements of cultural competency. Really, on the individual, I'll only focus on that. Awareness of your own cultural values. That is something that you need to work on. How do you look at the world, and how the world looks at you through your cultural lenses gives you your 2020 vision. And that is so key to doing the work around implicit biases, because you're only looking at the world through your own lenses. Someone else is going to have a totally different way of looking at it, or a different perspective. These are the 4 layers of diversity. So you can put yourself in as the personality. Your personality is shaped by the age of 5 or 6, and then the internal and the external dimensions. The internal ones are the immutable ones that you're born with. The external and the organizational are the ones that you are able to join. And when I talk about the 5 elements of cultural competency, you could see the intersections of the 4 layers of diversity, and this is how you become culturally competent. So you could see that this is just not something that's one and done, but it takes a journey to get there. And love this slide because we often talk about incompetence consciously and unconsciously. So think about if you start with the conscious competence, I know that I need practice, and then keep going around to the conscious incompetence, I know that I don't know. And it's so important for you to admit, I know you know what you don't know, because we all don't know, and the curiosity is really, really what helps us learn our biases. And our biases are often called our Achilles heel. So in the past, implicit biases were regarded as apparent, conscious, and intentional. And I think today, especially today, we're still in that era. People are very, very unlikely to say that they have biases, because they don't want to be pointed finger at, saying that you're bad, you're racist, you're no good, you're terrible. But today, all the science says that bias is very normative, unconscious, and largely unintentional. So think about that. It is very normal. And if you have a brain, that means that you have biases because you have a fast brain and a slow brain, and they're largely unintentional. And so here's a great definition for biases. They're ingrained habits of thought that lead us to errors in how people perceive, reason, remember, and make decisions. So if we take this definition and we actually walk through the two videos that we saw in the beginning, you could see that it led to errors in how we perceive the group of bikers. And then we began to reason, was it safe, was it not, should we go? And this is happening very quickly. And we remember when we've had interactions with this group. So then we leap to a quick decision and then we just go with it. And then implicit biases are, again, outside of our awareness, but their implications are clear to those affected by them. So if you ever get a chance to talk to people, and all of us have had a bias and been impacted by them, you know how it feels, and it doesn't feel good. And so, as I said, here's the amygdala. So we go out in the world every day to make decisions about what's safe or not. In fact, our biases are what's caused humans to evolve and to continue to evolve, because if we didn't have biases, we wouldn't know who was friend or foe, and we would be extinct at this time. So our brains determine whether or not something is safe before we can even begin to consciously make a determination. And I love this piece because I remember in my Psych 101 courses when I was at Temple, I remember the whole CAT and the flight or fight response. And so scientists estimate that we are exposed to at least 11 million pieces of information. And I love this depiction, because if you've ever been to in the middle of Times Square and you see all the stimuli that's going around on you, think of that as being 11 million pieces of information. And at one time, our brains could really only functionally deal with about 40. So that's how we have our fast brain and our slow brain, because we absolutely have to filter out that information. And if we didn't, can you imagine how long it would take to do a task? So I told you quickly that our biases are activated by these key conditions. Stress, multitasking. Again, the science says we are not good at multitasking. Need for closure and need for time constraints. In fact, we're even more a society of multitasking, because we have these devices all the time. And you've seen commercials, or even how people walk right into traffic because they're not paying attention. So again, there's lots of evidence around multitasking. Here are some interesting science that says people are often unaware of their implicit biases. So if you haven't done any work or assessments, you're going to be unaware of which ones you actually have. They do predict behavior. So that's why it's really important to do the assessment work. And people differ in levels of implicit bias. And last, which is really the most important piece of that, is that educational attainment makes no difference. So you can have a PhD, EDD, MD, whatever, you still have biases. I'm not going to show you this video, but I am going to have Ben send out the PowerPoint presentation, and you'll be able to see how Google walks through a group of people, their people team, taking them through the implicit association test. So this is how we develop our individual lenses. And so it's our legacy plus our layers equal our lenses. And that's when I talk about our cultural lenses, that's how you develop your cultural lenses and view the world. So, you know, we carry our histories around them. Here are our core identities right on the main lens, and then we look through multiple perspectives, which makes our reality our reality. And so I will ask if you could tell me what you see here. If you could just put it in the chat box.
Let's see. Everybody's thinking. Someone put a cow. Cow again. Leaf. Fingerprint.
Well, guess what? It is a cow. And this is what schemas are about. So remember I told you to focus how we develop our lenses. And so if you've never seen this before, or the people that have seen it before will know it's a cow. But when you look at something, you have no idea. But our lenses start to, again, form schemas or patterns for us. So we're able to look at the world through those. And so now if I showed you this over again, you would then be able to see the cow again. So very quickly, I'm sorry, let's just go back to that one. Here's the picture test. So does anyone know these two individuals? And which one would you, if you don't know them, I would rather hear from the people that don't know them. Which one would you trust, the person on the left or the person on the right?
Let's see. So someone put the person on the right, but he knows who he is. Another person said the right.
So I asked, who do you think most people would pick? The person on the left or the person on the right if you didn't know them?
Someone put, is it the same person? And to your answer, Arthur, someone put the left if they didn't know.
Right, exactly. It is not the same person. The person on the right is our lieutenant governor. And in fact, what's on his left arm is the zip code for Bradwick, Pennsylvania. If you don't remember him, but he's come into our town, or actually plenty of towns in Pennsylvania, to go around and talk about legalizing marijuana and the benefits of it. The person on the left, who's the person on the left? Does anyone know that person? I'll even let you answer, Ben, if you remember.
I don't think I do.
Okay.
Oh, looks like Norman Bates from Psycho. Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh gosh, they're very close. It is someone who's killed lots of people. In fact, he was so good at it, he would fake while he was on the highway that he had a broken down car and swindle the woman.
So we're getting Unabomber and Ted Bundy.
That's right. It is Ted Bundy. So that is Ted Bundy who killed, gosh, I don't even know how many women. But anyway, we often look at people, again, visually, and again, our amygdala is hijacked, and we have some way of determining if someone looks honest. In fact, we often look at people with the two measures of warmth and competence. Warmth is how likable they are. You know, would I invite them to dinner? You know, would I trust that person? And competence is if they were applying for a particular job, how competent do you believe? Now, we do that also very quickly, the warmth and the competence, and we often give a number of pictures for you to select high competence, low competence, or low competence, high competence. I'm sorry, low competence, high warmth. And so often there are things that are outside of our awareness that influence our decisions. So Really interesting, medical school applicants interviewed on rainy days received scores equivalent on a 10% lower mark on the MCATs than those interviewed on sunny days. And that is really interesting because think about, you know, your MCATs, 10% is huge when you think about it. And think about things that are outside of your control that impact what influences your decisions. So often, sometimes it could be the temperature of the room, if you've had your coffee. Some people, we're going into the winter months, some people really need sun. So they have lights that provide that because, you know, they could become depressed over that. Often hunger is another one. You know, maybe you're craving some kind of a spice or something like that, and you haven't had it in a while. So I ask you to think about really what influences your decisions and keep those in mind, because when you're making a important decision, think about, you know, how you're coming into the room and start to really reframe yourself before you walk into the room and you're about to make that decision. So, how much more time do I have, Ben? I just want to keep.
So we're at 12:55 right now, so about 20 minutes.
Oh, great. So this is a fascinating study on power and empathy. So it was done in 1906, the in-group and out-group bias. So if you're aware, each group nourishes its own pride and vanity, boasts its superior, exists in its own divinities, and looks with contempt on outsiders. So you are more likely, if you're in a group with people that are similar to you, to favor them than the people that are the out group. And think about this in the aspect of the 4 layers of diversity. That's really, really important. So often we make decisions on who we favor and who we don't. And if you think about how people get jobs, you're most likely, if you're hiring someone, you're gonna hire the person that is more similar to you. Dominant groups have less mirroring with non-dominant groups, and those in power will mirror less than those out of the power. And that is extremely important that you're aware of that. So these biases, again, are activated very quickly when this occurs. Empathy, they have less empathy for people of other races, they found. So you are more likely to have empathy racially for people that are more similar to you. And they're even less empathetic when they watch a person of another race inflicted with pain. And that was a great study. You can YouTube that. Fascinating, where they're asking the people behind a two-way mirror to decide when to stop this. They believe they're actually getting a shock, but they're really not. And the people that they're watching are showing that they are getting the shock. People were less likely to stop it and didn't feel bad about it when the person wasn't from their same racial group. And I kind of tend to think, geez, you know, I'm a moral, ethical human being that I wouldn't do that. But it's the study has been done over and over again. So, so what we found are that the unconscious mind is malleable, which is great. You know, so we humans are one of 2 beings besides dolphins that could actually think about their thinking. So we know that we could change. Our mind is malleable and it can change. So the first step for you to really do is, when you're mitigating your biases, to recognize and accept that you have them. So I say to you, get out of denial. Denial is not a river in Egypt. And you just have to admit and accept that you have them. The second is to develop the capacity to use a flashlight on yourself. So the more you have intelligence, confidence, and success, the more likely you have these blind spots. So really start putting the mirror on yourself and start examining. I would encourage you to YouTube what's called the implicit association test. It's been done millions of times. and you could assess yourself. They have it for race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, size bias, religion, political affiliation. It'll give you a score at the end. But when you leave today, please do not try to work on someone else and say, hey, I got you. You have a bias in this area. First, work on yourself. Practice constructive uncertainty. And I do this daily. So wherever I think I am certainly certain about, or I'm an expert in something, I put a question mark by it. And that question mark causes me to pause, to think about it and say, ooh, geez, is that really the case? And when I give myself the pause, at least it gives me the opportunity that I don't leap to the decision right away. I have a great example of practicing constructive uncertainty. So a while ago, I put a post on Facebook, told a couple people that I went to a big electronics store, and when I went in, I was asking about the Amazon Fire Stick. And they asked me, you know, what I was coming in for. I told them that that's what I was coming in for. And I said, I have a few questions. And he said, the first thing that the clerk said to me, he goes, oh, well, wait a minute. He says, if you're asking me to jury rig it or do anything like that, I can't tell you that. And I'm thinking, no, why would I ask you that? And it was interesting because I'm thinking here, this guy has biases, which he did have biases. He's assuming that everybody, that's going to be one of the questions that people ask. And so if, in fact, he didn't leap to that quickly, he could actually practice the constructive uncertainty and be prepared, but let the person ask the question first rather than say that that was what, or think that that's what the customer was going to ask. The fourth piece is really explore the awkwardness and discomfort. This work is going to be very awkward and uncomfortable, especially when you find that you have done UB moments. And I find that when every time that I encounter, and I do it all the time, it is very awkward and discomforting. And I say to myself, my gosh, why am I still thinking like this? I'm doing this work all the time. But really give yourself grace and mercy because you're going to do it. But at least when you start practicing the mitigation steps to bias, it's going to be much easier and it's going to happen less each time if you are practicing daily. And then engage with people you consider others and expose yourself to exemplars from that group. This is really important. This is called perspective taking. So I would encourage you, and a great way to do this is do a, if you're on any social media sites, look at who your friends are most likely. Who do they look like? What do they look like? Often our Facebook friends look like us or have similarities like us, and that's called the taste of home. So you could walk into any room and you don't know anyone in that room, you will sit next to or choose the seat next to someone who is most similar to you. That's why when the theater goers were walking into this theater, they didn't find anyone like them. So it really made them uncomfortable. And so I ask that you take yourself out of your comfort zone now and you expose yourself to people that are much different than you. So if you go to lunch with typically the same group of people, change. Or if you're in the lunchroom or whatever, and I know that's hard now during COVID, but I ask you to do it in all kinds of other ways in virtual settings. And then expose yourself to those exemplars from that group. And that would be around race, gender, sexual orientation. Because Gordon Alpert, who is a psychologist, has done a lot of work around contact theory, and the more immersion that you have with different groups racially, the more likely it will reduce your stereotypes. And then the last is to get feedback. And so I would encourage you to get feedback from people who you're less likely to hear what you expect or want to hear. So if you generally go to people in your group, and they tell you what you want to hear, I'm going to ask you to step outside of that comfort zone and go to people who you don't know and pass whatever the issue is by them and get feedback from them. And that will help you have a more well-rounded feedback circle, an opportunity to hear different perspectives about something.
Arthur, we had a quick question on your last slide. I think it was number 5. Isn't selecting exemplars from a group an active bias in itself?
So it is, but we do know that there is positive bias in and of itself. And so when you expose, when, you know, the pictures on your walls represent, you know, different people, or you have different magazines, then you challenge yourself in your mind. You say, oh my gosh, you know what, I read that story, or I know somebody that has that disability, or I know this. It just really starts to reduce your biases. Not that, again, not that you're ever gonna get rid of them, but these are just steps to kind of mitigate them. And I know, actually, thank you for that. That's a great question, because we often ask people to pick out people that are exemplary, things that we're not used to, quote unquote, a group having. So qualities, you know, sometimes people will say, you know, you speak so articulate, or you speak the King's English, as if it's not something that would be expected. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking you to do things really, I guess, from seeing people in your daily walk that you may or may not have had an opportunity to introduce yourselves, and then expose yourself to those groups of people. So I'm going to show you this great video. This is Emma and the doll, and I just want you to watch this and get your tissues ready. It's a great video.
Gift for a little girl, and you're about to see what happens when she opens it up. Her parents hoping she would see herself. Our Persons of the Week. 13 million views and counting tonight. The moment this little girl carries the surprise into her older sister. 10-year-old Emma Bennett of Texas was waiting.
Read the letter first. What letter? You're gonna love it.
Her little sister so excited, she tells Emma, read the letter first.
Emma's doll. Dear Emma's... What? You gotta be kidding me. No!
Emma was beside herself with joy. She opens the doll and pulls it out, knowing immediately that doll was just like her. It has a prosthetic leg, and she is suddenly overcome by the moment. Her mother, her father, the whole family in on it, all hoping Emma would feel more included. Tonight, her family telling us she has slept every night with that doll, even taking her to school. Emma has had a prosthetic leg since she was 9 months old after surgery for a rare birth defect. It never stopped her. And it turns out a team at A Step Ahead Prosthetics helped the family, fitting that doll as they've done for so many children already. And Dad asking Emma if she has a message.
What do you say to the people?
Thank you.
Tell him thank you.
Thank you for making us all like me.
A doll that hasn't left her side. And so we choose Emma Bennett tonight and that team that helped fit that doll. Thank you for watching here on a Friday night. I'm David Muir. I hope to see you right back here on Monday. Good night.
So, interesting enough, I love that. And we all have what I call the need to belong. So if you think about Maslow's hierarchy of need, in general, the breathing, the food, the water, the survival things are all on the first step. This now has been challenged, this hierarchy of need, and what we're finding that love and belonging is on the same level as the physiological, or belonging is even before. So there's been lots of challenges around Maslow's research, but definitely love and belonging is not up there. It's on the same level as the physical safety or the physiological. And if you think about when children are born, immediately they give the parents the children, and they have skin-to-skin contact, because we do have a need to just feel as though we belong for survival reasons. You know as well as I do as human beings, if we don't have that, you are less likely to survive. And so think about the things that humans, adults and younger people do to do things just to fit in. If you think of the Tide Pod Challenge, where kids are like swallowing those Tide Pod challenges, or even when I was a kid, people would smoke. In college, we would do all kinds of dangerous things. We would drink until through a funnel to see who got drunk faster. All those things have a need for belonging. And interesting research, schools that have gay-straight alliances have a lower percentage of bullying incidences occurring. And that is because they teach, the gay-straight alliances teach people to be accepting and tolerant of others. So that is critically important, that organizations are really now starting to work on belonging. Very interesting also, being excluded from a group triggers activity in the same region of the brain associated with physical pain. And they've done studies where people that have had this emotional pain, they've given them Tylenol, and that group that was given Tylenol, it even dulled the emotional pain for them for a period of time. So really important, especially when you're looking at the LGBT population around adolescents, because they're 4 times more likely to attempt and commit suicide. And they're also 4 times more likely to have a substance abuse issue because they don't have the freedom to be themselves or to be out, because those belonging environments don't exist for them. There are, when you get a chance, you'll take the implicit association test. But I will tell you that the research around this, and again, this is out of about 300, 400 million people, 76% of the population more readily associates males with career and females with family. 70% more readily associate male with science and female with the arts. And you could see that, how that plays out in society today. In terms of race, 75% have an implicit preference for white people over black. That's even for people of color when they're taking it. And then 76% have a preference for able-bodied people. So I am going to just do, I want you to think about or walk through this when you get a chance to go through the common types of biases in terms of performance attribution, maternal bias, and then competence likability. And I will stop. Thank you, Ben, for giving me that clue. And I'll open it up to questions, comments, responses. I want to thank you for taking the time out to attend this.
Thank you too, Arthur. We've gotten a lot of comments that this is a great presentation, so thank you so much. And if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat or the question and answer box. We have a couple minutes that we'll have Arthur answer any of them. A lot of people say an excellent presentation. Give it another minute.
So I love, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, for anybody who did join late, we did say that we would put the slideshows out there, as well as the recordings of this will be up.
Great. This is a great, they did the U.S. orchestra study where they put, it was called actually the blind audition, where they had a, the audition blinded. And prior to that, when they had auditions, 50% to 75% of the auditions would always go to men. When they put the drape down and they didn't have anyone wear shoes, so they couldn't hear if they were high heels, low heels, it increased women's odds by 50% with blind auditions. So think about that. Just by having that screen in front of you, it increased. And this is also often called Rooney's Rule, where organizations will take names off applications until the final round of applications. And so that often increases the diversity racially or ethnically for that.
Arthur, and we got 2 questions for you there.
Great.
What are some suggestions to approach people different than us in a way that's open to learning and not offensive?
Yeah, great question. So I would say that I wouldn't just go up to strangers and approach them. But what I would do is, again, challenge yourself. So if you're at church or in a setting where it's more normal, in a virtual setting, set yourself up that way. If you have work groups, you know, start reaching out to people that are not like you. Those are some great opportunities. And then I would also say in your virtual groups on social media, I would encourage you to look to join or look for opportunities to join groups outside of things that you would normally want to do, because that's going to help with perspective taking. Here at Geisinger, we have what's called employee resource groups for all different populations, one for race, gender. And so I often tell people that if you're not a man, you should join the women's ERG. If you're not Black, you should join the our bold group, and so on. Because then that way you're exposed to lots of difference and you get the opportunity to hear different perspectives.
Awesome. And then the second question we had, what is the first step to ensuring a company is on its way to being inclusive? Leadership training or programs for employees, or do you have any other suggestions?
Yeah, so I would first do, I often say do some quantitative or qualitative assessments to really find out. So I think the first thing that you should do is part of your engagement survey, ask those diversity questions so that you're not leading with anecdotally, that you'll have actually data to really drive the strategy around diversity and inclusion. Once you have that, I would then have a presentation with leadership and then present them with the facts and the evidence that I opened up with around the imperatives around diversity and inclusion. And then after that, I would suggest any organization to put together a diversity and inclusion council with a wide spectrum of individuals and then work through that diversity and inclusion council to define what D, E, and I mean for your organization. Look at it and really attach your strategy to the values of your organization. And then I would say third that create competencies around diversity and inclusion and hold people accountable, everyone in your organization. And people should be able to say them, just like they should be able to speak to your values of the organization. So I hope that was helpful. I know that that was quick, but I hope that was helpful.
Awesome. And I think that is all the questions that we had so far. If anybody does have a question after, feel free to send it to my email, ben.eaton, E-A-T-O-N, @wilkes-bear.org, and we'll get that over to Arthur and hopefully get your response. Thank you again, Arthur, for presenting for us today. It was a really good presentation with a lot of engaging topics, and thank you to our sponsor, PNC Bank, again. For anybody who wants to join us on next week, we have 3 more sessions left in our series. Next week is Will the Real Ally Please Stand Up? And that's with Jenny Hetro and Carrie Price, talking about how they're allies for each other along the lines of LGBTQ rights. And then also just another last minute announcement, we have nominations out for our annual dinner. One of the categories that I do want to highlight is Diversity Champion of the Year, and that's for a business that has excellent diversity and inclusion practices, and really just want to kind of highlight that business at our annual dinner. You can find information on that on our website, and that is again due tomorrow. And thank you everybody for joining us today.
Thank you for all your hard work, Ben. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, Arthur.